You believe fairness wins battles, but it chains you to mediocrity. True victors wield savagery without remorse, crushing illusions of equality to forge unbreakable dominance. You enter this arena convinced that the world operates on principles of fairness, that merit alone elevates the deserving while punishing the unjust. This delusion is your first chain, forged in the fires of societal indoctrination to keep you docile, predictable, and ultimately expendable. Equality is not a virtue. It is a weapon wielded by the weak to disarm the capable. In the raw calculus of power, savagery is not an aberration, but the foundational law, the unseen current that separates sovereigns from slaves. To claim a savage edge, you must first shatter this lens of illusion, refracting your vision through the cold prism of reality, where dominance is not earned, but seized. Consider the battlefield of existence. History is not a parade of equitable exchanges, but a slaughterhouse where the ruthless thrive and the equitable perish. The empires of old Rome, Mongolia, the corporate colossi of today did not rise on handshakes and mutual respect. They ascended on the backs of broken foes, their foundations laid with the bones of those who clung to fairness. You, in your naivety, have been conditioned to view savagery as moral decay, a deviation from some imagined harmony. But harmony is the lie told to herds, ensuring they graze contentedly while predators circle. Equality serves only to level the field for the inferior, diluting your potential until you become indistinguishable from the masses you secretly despise. This frame shift demands surgical precision, excise the tumor of empathy that whispers restraint in moments of opportunity. Empathy is not compassion. It is a parasite feeding on your resolve, implanted by institutions that profit from your compliance. Schools, media, even your so-called allies reinforce this myth, painting savagery as barbarism to prevent you from wielding it. Yet, in the shadows of power, the elite operate under no such illusions. They understand that life is a zero-sum game, where your gain is another's loss, and hesitation is suicide. To reposition savagery as your natural order, you must internalize this. Weakness invites conquest. The strong do not apologize for their strength. They amplify it, turning every interaction into a test of sovereignty. Visualize your current state as a fortress under siege, its walls cracked by the incessant barrage of egalitarian propaganda. You labor under the weight of invisible obligations to be fair, to share, to compromise, each one a breach through which opportunists pour. The savage edge begins with sealing these breaches, fortifying your psyche against the erosion of guilt. Guilt is the chainmail of the weak, heavy and restrictive, designed to slow your advance. Discard it. In its place, adopt the predator's gaze, cold, calculating, unyielding. Predators do not question their hunger, they act upon it, selecting prey with impersonal efficiency. You are not here to coexist. You are here to dominate, to carve out territory in a world that devours the hesitant. This lens shift is not optional. It is the prerequisite for survival in an arena where alliances are temporary and betrayals inevitable. The naive cling to fairness as a shield, only to find it shattered by the first real strike. You, however, will emerge recast, viewing every human exchange as a power dynamic to exploit. Savagery is your birthright, suppressed but not extinguished. Reclaim it, and the path to ascent opens, not through virtue, but through the brutal codes that follow. Fail this shift and you remain fodder for those who have already awakened. Your mind is not your own. It has been surgically altered since birth. To reject the savage edge, to recoil from the very instincts that once placed your ancestors at the apex of the food chain. The mechanism is elegant in its cruelty, a triad of guilt, reciprocity, and future faking, wired together to form an internal governor that caps your power before you ever reach for it. This is not accident. It is engineered suppression, a psychological castration performed on the male psyche to ensure compliance in a world that needs obedient producers, not sovereign predators. The first wire is guilt, the emotional reflex that fires the moment you consider an unfair advantage. Society implanted it early, That's not nice. Share with others. How would you feel if someone did that to you? Each phrase a scalpel, cutting away your natural aggression until the thought of striking first feels like self-betrayal. Guilt does not protect you. It paralyzes you at the exact moment a rival is calculating how to bury you. It transforms your strength into hesitation, your hunger into shame. The elite do not feel this guilt. They bypass the surgery. You still bleed from it. The second wire is reciprocity, the programmed expectation that cruelty will be returned, that burning a bridge today dooms you tomorrow. This is the herd's most sophisticated lie because it masquerades as wisdom. In reality, reciprocity only binds those who need the herd. The sovereign understands that most bridges lead nowhere worth going twice. Burning them is not risk, it is clarification. It forces the world to reveal who can swim and who drowns. Yet your mind clings to this wire, convincing you that isolation is punishment when it is actually selection. The third and most insidious wire is future faking, the dopamine loop that promises eventual reward for present restraint. Play fair now, and the universe will balance the scales later. Be the bigger man, and people will respect you. This is the opiate of the mediocre. It keeps millions grinding in quiet desperation, waiting for a cosmic promotion that never arrives, because the game was never designed to be fair. Future faking turns ambition into patience, aggression into tolerance, victory into someday. The predator does not postpone his kill for a better season. He strikes when the throat is exposed. These three wires intersect in the limbic system to create what the weak call conscience, and the strong recognize as shackles. Every time you sense an opportunity to claim disproportionate gain, the circuit activates, guilt floods, reciprocity warns, future faking sedates. The result? You self-regulate downward, voluntarily capping your ceiling to remain comfortable within the herd's parameters. This is the core mechanism that prevents 99% of men from ever tasting real power. They are not outmaneuvered by superior enemies. They are neutralized by their own programming long before the battle begins. The savage edge is not added, it is uncovered. It requires deliberate reversal, starving the guilt reflex until it atrophies, severing reciprocity by embracing calculated betrayal as strategy, and executing the future fake by demanding payment immediately and in full. Only when these wires are cut do you feel the raw voltage of your original circuitry, unfiltered, amoral, unstoppable. Most men sense this voltage once or twice in life and panic, rushing to reconnect the suppressors. The elite lean into it, letting it burn away the last illusions of civilization until only the weapon remains. You stand at the operating table now. The mechanism is exposed, pulsing. Reach for the blade. You already carry one of two archetypes inside your nervous system. One hunts. The other waits to be hunted. The predator does not negotiate his position, he occupies it. His posture is economical. No wasted gestures, no apologetic smiles, no explanatory small talk. When he enters a room, the temperature shifts because oxygen is suddenly rationed. He speaks in declaratives, never in requests. Questions are weapons he aims, not pleas he offers. His eyes do not dart for approval. They scan for vulnerabilities, the way a sniper calibrates range. He feels no compulsion to fill silence. Silence is his territory, and he defends it. When conflict arrives, he does not posture or threaten. He simply escalates faster than the other party can process, turning hesitation into hemorrhage. Contrast this with a prey archetype that most men wear like a second skin. The prey signals availability for consumption from 10 meters away. His shoulders round forward in unconscious apology. His sentences trail off, inviting interruption. He laughs too quickly at insults disguised as jokes. He over-explains his intentions, believing transparency will buy safety. It never does. He seeks consensus before acting, which guarantees he will always move last. His empathy is broadcast like a distress beacon. I'm harmless. Please don't hurt me. Predators read this transmission instantly and adjust their stalking radius accordingly. Between these poles exist dangerous hybrids, men who sense the predator stirring inside but have not yet cut the umbilical cord to the herd. They posture aggressively but fold under real pressure. They talk about cutting ties, but keep answering late-night texts from people who drain them. They collect alpha quotes on their phones, yet still feel guilty after refusing a favor. These are the transitional forms, unstable, exploitable, and usually the first to be consumed when real selection pressure arrives. Observe the behavioral markers in the wild. The predator answers slowly and sparsely. Every word is rationed ammunition. The prey answers quickly and excessively. Every word is a plea for continued existence. The predator maintains frame even when losing. He treats setbacks as data, not identity threats. The prey collapses frame the moment. Advantage slips. Loss becomes proof of unworthiness. The predator views relationships as temporary coalitions of convenience. Attachment is a variable he controls. The prey views relationships as extensions of self-worth. Severing one feels like amputation. You are reading this because some part of you already knows which animal currently controls your nervous system. The knowledge is uncomfortable because it is accurate. Most men spend their entire lives oscillating between prey behaviors and brief, ashamed flashes of predatory impulse, then immediately punish themselves for the flash. They call it being an asshole, going too far, losing control. That self-punishment is the herd's final safeguard, an internal sheepdog that bites the wolf cub before it can mature. The 9 brutal codes exist to starve the sheepdog and feed the wolf until the prey archetype dies of malnutrition. Right now, your body is sending you signals. Tension in the jaw, heat behind the eyes, a faint nausea when you imagine actually doing what you are reading about. That nausea is not conscience. It is the death throes of the prey identity realizing it is being targeted for extinction. Pay attention to which signals grow louder as you continue. The savage edge is not a modern invention or a self-help gimmick. It is older than written law, older than agriculture, older than cities. Every empire that ever mattered was built by men who understood this instinctively, and every civilization that collapsed forgot it or tried to outlaw it. Look at Alexander. At 20, he inherited a competent but conventional army. Within 13 years, he had carved the largest land empire the world had seen up to that point. How? Not through superior logistics or better spears. He moved faster, struck harder, and showed zero hesitation when mercy would have slowed him down. When Tyre resisted, he crucified 2,000 of its fighting men along the shore, not because he was evil, but because he understood spectacle as deterrence. The next city he approached surrendered before the first ladder touched the wall. Mercy is expensive. Terror is cheap in compounds. Look at Genghis Khan. He did not conquer a quarter of the known world by being the nicest warlord. He systematically annihilated entire populations that resisted, then incorporated the survivors who surrendered immediately. His generals were instructed to leave no ambiguity. Resistance equals extinction. Submission equals opportunity. The psychological effect was devastating. Cities hundreds of kilometers away would open their gates the moment they heard hoofbeats. The Mongol Empire was not built on goodwill. It was built on the credible promise of annihilation for anyone who tested the boundary. Closer to our time, look at the corporate apex predators of the last century. When Standard Oil was carving up the American petroleum market, John D. Rockefeller did not politely ask competitors to merge. He slashed prices below cost in their territories until they bled out, then bought their corpses for pennies. He understood that fairness is a luxury the dominant cannot afford. When the trust was finally broken up in 1911, the fragments were still worth more than the entire industry had been before he began. The lesson is not hidden. Temporary losses in pursuit of monopoly are investments, not mistakes. Human nature has not changed. The same limbic wiring that made a Bronze Age chieftain slaughter a neighboring tribe for their cattle still hums inside every man reading this. Modern society is simply layered sedation on top. HR policies, social credit, cancel culture, therapy speak. Emotional intelligence training. All of it exists to dampen the same ancient circuitry that once decided who ate and who starved. The sedation works until it doesn't. When real pressure arrives, economic collapse, street-level power vacuums, personal betrayal at scale, the veneer cracks and the same primate drives surface unchanged. The threat is not hypothetical. Every day you delay claiming the savage edge, someone else is sharpening theirs. Your competitor is already practicing selective cruelty. Your colleague is quietly undermining you while maintaining plausible deniability. The woman you are dating is already testing how much disrespect you will tolerate before she branches. The friend who borrows money is already calculating how little he needs to repay. None of them feel guilt. They feel advantage. You still do. That is the asymmetry killing you slowly. History does not reward the fair. It remembers the ruthless. The statues are not raised for the nice guy who shared the harvest. They are raised for the man who took the harvest, then took the harvesters. The deeper truth is uglier still. Most people secretly crave being on the winning side of savagery. They despise weakness in others even while practicing it themselves. They will cheer the predator who wins and rationalize his methods after the fact. They will only moralize when they are losing. You are surrounded by people who will applaud your brutality the moment it produces results and crucify you if it fails. That is not hypocrisy. That is selection. The 9 brutal codes are not philosophy. They are field-tested survival software that has been running successfully for 10,000 years. Ignore them and you become another fossil record entry. A man who understood what was required but chose comfort instead. Comfort is the luxury of the already conquered. The analysis is complete. The threat is mapped. The archetypes are named. Now comes the only part that matters: execution. The 9 brutal codes are not principles to admire. They are behavioral overrides you, installed through deliberate, repeated violation of your current programming. Each code is a small, surgical act of treason against the prey identity you currently inhabit. Perform them cold. Perform them cold. Perform them consistently. Perform them without asking for permission. Code 1. Weaponize silence. Stop explaining yourself the instant someone demands justification. The moment you feel the urge to clarify, defend, or soften a boundary, swallow the sentence. Let the other person stew in the vacuum you create. Most will backfill it with apologies or concessions. Silence is not passive. It is active dominance disguised as restraint. Code 2. Monetize. Every favor, never give without immediate or pre-negotiated return. Shift from "I'll help because it's right" to "what does this transaction buy me right now?" If the answer is nothing tangible, status, information, access, leverage, decline without apology. Favors are currency. Spend only when the exchange rate is obscenely in your favor. Code 3. Preemptive strike permission. Stop waiting for permission to escalate. The second you register disrespect, boundary violation, or resource extraction cut deeper than they expect, ghost, demote, publicly humiliate, terminate. Do not match their level. Exceed it so dramatically they never test again. Hesitation invites repetition. Decisiveness ends the pattern. Code 4. Erase reciprocity. Debt actively hunt and destroy any sense of owing anyone anything. If someone reminds you of a past favor, reframe it instantly. That was then. This is now. Or better, ignore the reminder completely. Reciprocity is a chain they try to wrap around your neck years after they handed you the link. Break it. Code 5. Practice visible indifference. Train yourself to visibly detach the moment emotion enters the equation. When anger rises, slow your blink rate and soften your voice. When guilt tries to surface, force a micro smirk and change posture. Indifference is not absence of feeling. It is refusal to let feeling dictate behavior. The man who can look unmoved while everything burns is terrifying. Code 6. Curate disposable alliances. Build relationships with expiration dates built in. Never let proximity or history create obligation. Audit your inner circle every 90 days. Who adds power? Who subtracts it? Anyone in the second column gets surgically removed. No conversation, no closure, no warning. Loyalty is a luxury. Utility is non-negotiable. Code 7. Reward ruthlessness publicly. When you execute a brutal move and win, do not hide it. Let the story circulate. Let people know exactly how far you went and how little you cared. The reputation of being capable of anything deters 90% of future attacks. Most predators back off when they realize you are the bigger predator. Code 8. Starve emotional reactivity. Delete every dopamine loop tied to approval, validation, or being understood. When someone withdraws affection, attention, sex, or support treated as neutral data, not personal catastrophe, feel the sting for exactly 3 seconds. Then redirect the energy into cold planning. Emotional starvation makes you anti-fragile. Code 9. Claim asymmetry without apology. Whenever you gain disproportionate advantage, lean into it. Double down. Triple down. Do not equalize. Do not balance. Do not make it fair. The moment you sense leverage, press until something breaks. Fairness is for people who have already lost. These are not suggestions. They are orders you give yourself every time the old wiring tries to fire. Each time you obey one of the codes instead of the herd script, you starve the prey and feed the predator. The shift is not comfortable. It is not quick. It is mechanical, repetitive, and merciless, exactly like any worthwhile weapon calibration. Start tonight. Pick the code that feels most nauseating. Execute it tomorrow in the smallest possible real-world situation. Then do it again the next day, and the next. Repetition is the forge. Discomfort is the hammer. You are the metal. The man who started reading this no longer exists. He is already decomposing. Every time you executed one of the 9 codes, even the smallest, most private violation, you fed a corpse. The corpse is the old you, the one who still believed explanations by respect, who still measured worth by how many people liked him, who still felt a twinge of pride when someone called him good, who still secretly hoped the universe keeps score. That version is brain dead. You are now standing over the body, deciding whether to bury it or burn it. Identity death is not poetic metaphor. It is physiological. Neural pathways that once lit up for approval, guilt, and belonging are receiving less and less blood flow. They are shrinking simultaneously. New circuits, ruthlessly efficient, low empathy, high utility, are thickening with every cold choice you make. The brain is plastic, but it is also lazy. It only rewires when the old wiring stops working, and the new wiring starts producing dopamine through dominance, instead of through validation. You are forcing that rewiring right now. The death process has distinct stages. You will recognize if you are honest. Disgust phase. The first executions of the codes feel nauseating. You ghost someone and your stomach twists. You refuse a favor and your chest tightens. That is the old identity screaming as its oxygen is cut off. Most men abort here. They interpret the disgust as proof they are bad and rush back to the herd for absolution. You do not. You let the disgust run its course until it dulls into indifference, emptiness phase. After the disgust fades, a void appears. No one is applauding. No one is applauding. No one is even noticing. The old dopamine sources. Being seen as fair, loyal, deep, emotionally available, dry up completely. This emptiness terrifies most people into relapse. They would rather feel guilt than feel nothing. You train yourself to sit in the nothing until it stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like freedom. Replacement phase. Only after the void has been endured does the new identity crystallize. It does not arrive as a thunderclap of confidence. It arrives as quiet, mechanical certainty. You notice you no longer scan faces for approval. You notice threats register as math problems instead of emotional emergencies. You notice betrayal no longer hurts it. Simply updates your threat model. The new identity is not loud. It is frictionless. It moves through the world without drag. What replaces the corpse is not a better version of you. Better is still a slave morality concept. What replaces it is a sovereign organism. No internal committee debating whether an action is right. No archive of past slights that need to be forgiven or avenged emotionally. No emotional mortgage on other people's opinions. A simple, cold calculus. Does this increase my power position? Yes, desecute. No, discard. This new organism does not need to be liked. It needs to be feared, respected, or ignored. Any of the three is acceptable. Being liked is now classified as a cost center, not a benefit. The replacement is permanent only when regression becomes more painful than continuation. That tipping point arrives when you look back at the old behaviors, explaining, apologizing, oversharing, people-pleasing, and feel physical revulsion, not moral disapproval. Actual physiological disgust, the way you feel looking at rotting food. When that switch flips, the old identity is cremated. There is no going back without self-mutilation. You are not becoming someone new. You are amputating the parasite that was wearing your skin and finally letting the original creature breathe. The original creature was always there, watching, waiting, starving. It never bought the fairy tale. It simply waited for you to stop feeding the lie. Look in the mirror tonight. The eyes staring back are no longer asking for permission to exist. They are measuring how much space the rest of the world is allowed to take. That is the only identity that matters now. There is no gentle landing from this point. You have already crossed the membrane. The old identity is ash. The new organism is breathing. Any attempt to crawl back inside the corpse will only produce self-inflicted wounds that never close, guilt laced with humiliation, nostalgia laced with nausea, regret that tastes like battery acid. The bridge is already burning behind you. You lit it. Most men who reach this chapter do not finish it. They feel the cold settling in their chest and panic. They slam the video closed, delete the tab, tell themselves they aren't like that, and spend the next 6 months trying to prove to themselves and everyone else that they are still safe, still moral, still one of the good ones. They will never be dangerous again. They will never be sovereign. They will spend the rest of their lives slightly smaller than they could have been, slightly poorer in leverage, slightly more tolerated than respected. That is the majority outcome. That is the default. The minority, the fraction small enough to be statistically invisible, does something else. They close this video, stand up, and immediately execute one more code tonight. Not tomorrow. Not when they feel ready. Tonight, they pick the single most uncomfortable action still available to them, right now. Send the message that ends a parasitic friendship. Refuse the request that would have cost them nothing to grant. Walk away from the conversation mid-sentence. And they do it with zero ceremony. No internal pep talk. No journaling about their feelings. Just execution. That single additional rep tonight is what separates the elite from everyone else who merely consume the material. Because consumption is cheap, execution is expensive, and sovereignty is paid for in discomfort units, not likes or views. If you are still reading, audit yourself right now. Have you already ghosted at least one person who is draining value? Have you already said no to a favor that would have cost you nothing but gained you nothing? Have you already let silence do the killing instead of explaining yourself into weakness? Have you already felt the disgust and kept moving anyway? If the answer to even one of those is yes, you are no longer in the herd. You are in the thin, high-altitude air where real selection happens. If the answer is no, if this is still just intellectual entertainment, then understand the warning clearly. The window is closing. Every day you delay, the old wiring regains a little ground. Every day you delay, someone else sharpens their edge while yours dulls. Every day you delay, the organism you could have become recedes further into the fog. There is no cosmic timer that gives you a second chance at age 45. There is only now and the next decision. So choose, either burn the final remnants of the prey tonight to one more cold, deliberate act that the old you would have hated, or accept that you were only a tourist here, a man who looked at the weapon, admired the craftsmanship, felt briefly powerful in imagination, then put it back on the shelf and returned to the cage. The elite do not admire weapons, they wield them. They do not read about ruthlessness. They practice it until it becomes reflex. If that description still produces heat behind your eyes instead of retreat, then you belong to the minority. Prove it to yourself. Not to me, not to anyone watching, to the only judge that matters now, the man in the mirror who no longer flinches. Close this video. Stand up. Execute. The rest of us will be waiting on the other side of the fire.